You know, seeing your favourite franchise fall into the hands of Disney is a bit like seeing the corpse of your beloved Gran fall into the hands of Ed Gein. You know they're gonna do something horrible to it, it's just a matter of time. Case in point, Predator, Killer of Killers, an animated movie from the mind of Dan Trachtenberg, who's rapidly becoming to the Predator franchise what Dave Filoni is to Star Wars.
Well, the difference is that Trachtenberg is way better than what Filoni is. Hello there guys and welcome back. Today we're responding to Critical Drinker again. But honestly, this review is far worse than the Superman one. While I still don't think that review is good, it looks like a masterpiece compared to this one, because this is honestly one of his worst reviews. Which is saying a lot considering his track record, but here we are. I've seen this movie twice now, and even on a second watch, I still believe it holds up. I was going to respond to this back when it first came out, but other things got in the way of that. But since Badlands is upon us, what better time to respond to this awful review than now? With all that being said, let's slash our way straight into this.
He kicks off with a group of Viking warriors on a revenge mission against a rival tribe, naturally led by a female warlord named Ursa, because everyone knows that they make for the best soldiers in medieval warfare. What can I say? It's a Disney movie. Of course they had to have a girl boss at the center of everything.
Wow, what an asshole.
Wow, already off to a terrible start. So Ursa's a girl boss, right? Why? You don't substantiate this to any meaningful degree whatsoever in this whole review, so you don't give me much to work with. Is it just because she's in charge? That's not what a girl boss is. The definition of a girl boss, at least from what I've been able to find, is a woman who is treated as an inspirational figure despite being unpleasant, having flaws that shouldn't make them as such. Neither of which applies to Ursa. In fact, you praise her story in this very review as being a compelling story about the cost of revenge and all that. So, how does that make that a girl boss? Is it because she's a good fighter? For one, that's rich coming from you, because you do that all the time in your own work. I watched your short film. Sorry, I mean proof of concept, which you totally didn't change to try and cover your ass, like what you may or may not have done multiple times in the past, including with another film in this very franchise. Anyway, in Rogue Elements, the female characters are, by your own nebulous definition, girl bosses. Not only are they not particularly likable, especially due to their bad dialogue, especially copious amounts of swearing, they also beat up men, including being able to hold their own against much larger men for far longer than what is, by your own terms, realistic, which we'll be tackling in a second. Such as one of them can hold back a guy who essentially has the body of a heavyweight champion with a knife, but they take far more damage than what they should survive. Like when one gets slit on the side of the throat and is totally fine, but the other one gets hit right next to an RPG and survives with no injuries whatsoever. And from what I've been able to gather, you use stuff like this in your own books all the time. Links to some of the reviews will be in the description. If you've done this since at least 2012 with Dark Harvest, and you still do it in your own current day books. And Rogue Elements is just another example of that. Which means one of two things. Either one, you don't actually believe this stuff, and you only do it for the attention, or you're such a moron that you have zero self-awareness. No matter how you try to slice it, that doesn't look good for you either way, so pick your poison. And before I get an inevitable comment claiming that's just whataboutism, the point I'm making is that he very clearly has inconsistent standards. I've said this before in my Cosmonaut Variety Hour response on The Last Jedi, but if you lack consistency, you also lack credibility. If you're not going to be consistent, why should I listen to you? Let me use an analogy. Let's say you have a pastor, preacher, whatever you want to refer to him as. They tell you not to sin, such as engage in prostitution, drugs, drinking, lying, cheating, all of that. Only for him to do all that himself and then some. Are you really going to take their words seriously after that? Yeah, thought so. Clearly, Drinker has the same type of problem as well. As well as the fact he doesn't do enough research, either for his writing or his videos. When it comes to his writing, he's essentially Dollar Store Lee Child or Tom Clancy, without anything that makes their writing good, and in his videos, he'll make claims he clearly has no idea about. To use one example, I do agree that War of the Rohirrim is a bad movie, but even in his review, he says this.
Before beating him in a fair fight, because fuck you, human biology.
This is one example of him making a baseless claim with no evidence. Shadiversity. Even though I don't agree with him on a lot of his media takes, one thing I'll give him credit for is that he's well versed in medieval times, and he made a video where he explains it's actually not that unrealistic or that it's actually possible for a woman to be a man in a sword fight. And back to this movie, Viking shield maidens were an actual thing during this time period. Just a simple Google search, and you can find places that explain they were actually real and can indeed participate in warfare. And even if we're going to ignore all that and just go with the women beating up men in movies and claim it's unrealistic, that's just an appeal to reality fallacy. Something Drinker often employs in his reviews, including this one. Have there been bad fights of women beating men? Yes. Have there been good fights of women beating men? Also yes. It just depends on execution. No two fights are exactly the same. There are a million factors that go into play on how a fight goes. Is it bad when Mike Ehrmantraut can beat up men far younger than him? Is it bad that characters like Batman or Daredevil are able to beat up multiple men and even dodge bullets? If you hate women being men because of realism, then you should hate all of those as well. It's all just choreographed fights for entertainment. And unless a work of fiction is meant to be super grounded and realistic, like your own garbage, then it's totally fine. So before I get someone asking why I don't apply those standards to his own stuff, that's why. The fact of the matter is that it's totally fine in this movie, and Drinker's an utter hypocrite and a moron when it comes to reviewing movies, and it only gets worse from here.
No, that's not an opinion, it's a fact.
Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. What we find out is that all 3 survivors were captured, put on ice for years or even centuries, and transported to the Predator homeworld where they're expected to take part in a death match where the winner has to take on the king of the fucking Predators.
Fuck.
I mean, is it just me or does this strike anyone else as being kind of unfair? Never mind the fact that humans are already at a massive disadvantage against predators who are bigger, stronger, more technologically advanced and able to turn invisible. What's the reward for defeating one and actually living to talk about it? Well, they get abducted to the other side of the galaxy and forced to fight a bunch of other humans to the death, and if they somehow survive that, then they have to fight literally the biggest, strongest and deadliest predator warrior in existence.
That doesn't seem fair.
What the fuck do you expect them to do? They don't even know where they are or what's going on. Primitive people like Ursa and Kiyoshi who don't understand about space travel and alien worlds would probably be so paralyzed with absolute terror that they wouldn't even be able to think rationally, let alone fight. And I thought the whole point of predators is that they're an honor-based culture. If you manage to fight and defeat one of them, the others will let you go because you've proven yourself worthy prey. I don't know, maybe these ones are secret assholes or something.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich, Chef Ramsay.
This is the main reason I want to make my response to this video, because he's just demonstrating that he doesn't understand the predators and their lore. Drinker not doing research? Impossible! For one, this is not the entire Yaja race or culture. What you seem to forget or even omit is the 2010 movie Predators. In that movie, we learned that predators have tribes that don't get along and have blood feuds with each other.
Now they're similar, but they're different. It's kind of like the difference between dogs and wolves. The ones that are running things up there. The larger ones hunt the smaller ones. It's some kind of blood feud, I guess, been going on for a long time.
In the movie, the 3 main predators of the film hang one of their own up on a totem pole and just allow him to suffer there as a way to lure out other prey and attack them. And when that one's free later on in the climax, he attacks the main bad blood predator and is killed by him. That very clearly shows that these types of predators exist. That's not even mentioning the fact that the expanded universe also covers this same topic. Besides, I don't see the inherent issue of this anyway. Not only does it make sense that there will be Yaja out there who will disagree with their code of honor and violate it, or that there will be tribes of them who will openly go against it. They're not a hive-mind species like the xenomorphs. They have their own free will that they've clearly shown to have throughout their franchise, including teaming up with humans if necessary. So them being assholes is a non-criticism. And what you say about them letting the victors live to tale isn't even fully accurate, since the predator in the first movie tries to blow himself up with Dutch. It's only because of luck that he survived. The example you showed in Predator 2, that's just simply one tribe of them, not the entirety of their race. And the chieftain we see isn't their supreme leader or king. Ursa does refer to him as a king, but that's only because that's all she understands him as. That's just part of her nomenclature from her time period. The whole section once again reaffirms that you don't know what you're talking about, which is ironic because you accused Dan Trachtenberg of the same thing in this very video.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Naturally, the scrappy trio learn to put aside their differences and work together to escape, even though they can't actually understand each other's languages, and then Torres magically knows how to fly a Predator spaceship so that the rest of the plot can happen.
Right.
Yeah, and what can I say, man? World War II fighter planes and super advanced spaceships are pretty much the same when you get right down to it, I guess.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Also, I'm not exactly sure what he's supposed to do next when he's got no idea where they are or how to get back to Earth. Oh yeah, and even when they actually do escape, the Predators launch a fucking armada to hunt them down. So even though they actually won, defeated you, and got away, you're still gonna go after them anyway? I mean, is there literally any way for these humans to win? Or are these Predators just straight up assholes that refuse to take the L? I don't know, but it's kind of a shitty way to ruin a decent premise. Like I said earlier, I would have been perfectly happy for this movie to have been a proper anthology, either with no finale to tie the stories together, or for it to end on some kind of cliffhanger where the survivors wake up just as they arrive at the Predator homeworld, thus setting up a potential sequel. As it stands, the ending feels rushed and poorly developed, and there's so much quippy, self-aware humour and implausible gravity-defying fight scenes that it feels more like a Marvel movie than a Predator story.
For one, they established that Torres knows some Japanese from basic training. It's just that he's not very good at it. And when they do talk to each other, they usually talk through one another rather than at each other, if that makes sense. Which is a good touch for this movie. And they're able to pick up on social cues or basic context clues as well. Language barriers don't all of a sudden mean they can't pick up on those. As for Torres being able to fly the ship, I do think it's a bit of a reach, but not entirely impossible. For one, considering his flight experience, that does help some. And the Predator technology has been used by human characters throughout their franchise, and despite some difficulty, they managed to figure it out, since it's at least very reminiscent enough to human technology for them to pick up on it. Plus, since we love to use real life constantly, I guess, fighter pilots from World War II have been able to fly modern aircraft and still be able to handle the G-force far better than average people despite their age, so I don't see why that can't be applied somewhat here. And Torres has spent a few minutes figuring it out while the other two buy in time while they're fighting the chieftain, so that does give him some wiggle room. But more importantly, he's shown to be far from an expert, since not only does he still fly the ship in a way that's far from the most stable, but he doesn't even close the ramp to get into the ship. He's not even attempting to fly into space, only sticking to inside the atmosphere. And why is it a problem they try to escape? Yeah, they may not have a long-term plan right now, but they still have basic self-preservation. They can still try to figure that stuff out after they escape from the tribe. That's inevitably what the sequel is going to be about. It's a cliffhanger ending for a reason. The only character that really makes jokes in this movie is Torres, and nothing he says is close to anything Marvel does. He never says anything at inappropriate times that disrupts the tone. Guys, if your movie has jokes, it's automatically like Marvel. I guess your stuff is like Marvel since they also have jokes, but I think I've hammered his hypocrisy home by this point.
The plot armor here is also off the charts. I lost track of the number of times a Predator picks a main character up by the neck and just throws them across the room when it could easily kill them instantly. Or characters surviving falls and impacts that should have absolutely shattered every bone in their body. Or Predators somehow forgetting how to fight the moment a tiny human leaps on their back and starts hitting them. Stuff like this is especially jarring and disappointing because the overall tone of the film is actually pretty serious, especially the first two stories that have strong character work and genuinely compelling dramatic moments. Yeah, you kind of have to look past the obligatory girl boss elements in Ursa's story, but beneath the typical modern day bullshit there's actually a decent narrative about a traumatized woman sacrificing everything for the sake of revenge until she's left with nothing to live for except to fight and die.
Okay, for one, the Predators grabbing people and not instantly killing them is something they've done since the first movie, because they're generally arrogant and want to play with their prey, so to speak, before killing them. Are Predator 1 and 2 bad now because they do this in both movies? As for them falling, that's also pretty reasonable. Not only is this movie animated, thus things are more exaggerated than most live action movies are already, but besides that, the times they do fall are still pretty reasonable. Such as when Ursa catches herself on the cliffside, which will lessen her fall already, but an icicle also breaks the ice floor beneath her, which will make the impact less damaging. The only other two cases are in the sword section, where one of the brothers falls, but it's also clouded by fog, so we can assume in reasonable good faith that he was able to make it by grabbing onto something or being able to break his fall. And later, when Kiyoshi falls into the water himself, similar to Dutch in the first movie or even the gang in Predators, And lastly, on the predators not grabbing people on their back, not only does that only happen twice, once in the Shield and the other in the finale, not only is attacking someone from behind always a massive advantage in a fight, it's also hard when the person is constantly hitting you, especially in the second case where Kiyoshi and Ursa were double teaming the chieftain. But the predators are still able to grab them relatively quickly anyway, so you're just being disingenuous once again.
Movie's overestimating the popularity of Naru from Prey though. A mid-credit stinger suggests that she's still alive and waiting to be brought back for future adventures, as if that's some mind-blowing revelation that fans are gonna lose their minds over. If you really wanted to get people talking, the obvious choice would have been Dutch from the first movie. Like, imagine him coming back for the first time in 40 years with a bunch of other warriors from different centuries to turn the tables on the Predators.
Shut up and take my money!
You're the type of guy who constantly criticizes movies for nostalgia, and now you openly admit you will watch the sequel if it had Dutch in it, even though you claim this movie ruins the Predators and their lore.
Keep that same energy.
Funny, not only because he and Mike are going to be in it anyway, but also, once again, inconsistent standards. Though you still claim No Way Home is the best MCU movie in the multiverse saga, which is wrong, so you have demonstrated that you're just as susceptible to nostalgia as anyone else. Plus, Naru is not only a good character, but she's better than any character you've ever come up with, including Ryan Drake, who is one of the most shallow examples of masculinity I can think of. Though, since you and your friends like to praise things just for being masculine, even though that thing in question is total garbage, that shows how shallow you are when analyzing media. And this movie, along with other stuff like The Batman, Andor, Prey, and several other things, are given the woke label despite the fact that they're generally good. Sure, it's one thing to criticize things when they're generally bad and woke, but this movie isn't part of that. One last thing. In the comments, people claim it makes no sense that Taurus can figure out that the Predator's using heat tracking technology when that technology didn't exist yet or was in its infancy. When people rightly point out that he knows because he used a blowtorch, which activated the hook, as well as the fact that the engine was on fire, people asked, what if it was magnetized? For one, if it were magnetized, why didn't it activate when it was on the carrier? And why did it go for the engine when it was falling and further away from it than the plane? Deducing that it was heat is a logical conclusion to come to. Is the first movie bad because Dutch figured out that the Predator couldn't see him when he was covered in mud, when he didn't know what he was using to track him? I know there's some precedent for that in real life, but it's still exaggerated in the movie, especially with the mud still working even after a decent period of time where it should have heated his body warmth. It's not even an issue in that case either. It just shows how selective some people are when applying good faith. Anyway, that's the end of this video. This review was garbage. I doubt his take on Badlands is going to be much good either, much like all of his other reviews. I still think this movie is really good and one of the best Predator movies, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store. That'll be all for now, and this is Skids, signing off.